Many of us like the outdoors, but we're trapped in a city, and we lust for the opportunity to take our SUV off-road. The Shafer Trail from Canyonlands Island in the sky is probably the best place for us to give off-roading a try. It looks a little intimidating from the top, and to some, it is. But I've done it 5 times in 3 different SUVs, and even the 2-wheel drive one didn't get stuck. My Subaru dealer did say that the 2 trips down here, and a couple of other similar excursions, did cause my rear hubs, rear springs, and the front track arms to prematurely wear, which cost me thousands of dollars. So you might want to consider doing it in a rental car. You're going to see some amazing sights, so you're going to want to stop often. And when you do, it'll take about 3 hours to complete the 19 miles of unpaved road, as well as the final 25 paved miles back to Moab. To get there, take Highway 313 past the Canyonlands entrance. The trailhead is about a mile before the Island in the Sky Visitor Center. When the pavement ends, the road is still flat, as if to give you some time to get used to driving on the loose, sandy surface. Then there's an impressive overlook just before the trail cuts into the cliff face. In an effort to show you as much of the road as possible, I've sped up some of the driving footage. In places, it does look a bit scary, but the road is surprisingly wide, and it's perfectly safe to pass. In places, though you may have to choose where you do that. It can be a little intimidating at first. After all, you're just a few feet from an 1,100-foot drop. But if you drive sensibly, you'll be fine. Each time before I head out on this trail, I stop at the visitor center to ask them about the current road conditions. These days, the road is so popular that they grade the top part pretty often. So now they say the top part, the part with the big drop-off, is actually the easiest part of the trail. But after a rain, it might not be. And in the winter, the shadowy areas tend to stay frozen after a snowfall, causing the road to be closed. This typically happens in mid-December, and the road may not open again until February or March. And of course, the park website has plenty of road status information. So check out the website before you go, but also check with the visitor center. They'll have the latest information. And while there, pick up a map. The first section is about 17 miles long, and then you leave the national park. That's when the name changes to the Potash Road. And by the way, the Potash Road portion just might be open throughout the winter. Our route then joins the paved Highway 279 all the way back to Moab. The trail starts at about 5,900 feet of elevation. When we're done, we'll have dropped about 1,900 feet. In places, it's a little tricky, but if this guy can make it up the road on a bicycle, you certainly can make it down. By the way, if you don't want to put wear and tear on your own vehicle, you can rent a 4x4 Jeep in Moab. This was originally a cattle trail. Local ranchers called the Shafer brothers built it about 100 years ago to get their cattle to market. It was expanded greatly in the 1940s, when it was used by uranium prospectors. That's also when many of the roads on the canyon floor were cut. Many of these still scar the landscape. By the 50s, the Shafer Trail was nearly forgotten. Like the rest of the area, it became a part of the national park in 1964. The trail became popular only recently. In 1980, only 57,000 people visited all of Canyonlands. Today, nearly 1 million come every year. Though the view is amazing, the drive is remarkably normal. There's never an uh-oh moment, or even a slight slip of the wheels. After about 10 minutes, the initial ascent is about over. It was almost too quick, though I never got over 15 miles an hour. Here's what I said about it at the time.
Well, that was it. That was pretty easy. We dropped 1,100 to 1,200 feet in about 15 minutes at the most, it looks like. Didn't get a chance to look at the view. Basically, I'm looking at the road about 15 to 20 feet in front of me. It's pretty darn interesting, let me tell you. Thoroughly enjoying it.
Mountain bikers from around the world come to Moab, and some even try to pedal up this road. As a cyclist myself, I ask if the rider needs food or water. It's over 90 degrees, and sometimes they just might need it. There are several connecting trails in the canyon. The longest is the White Rim Road. It's over 100 miles long, winding its way across the caprock, often just a few feet from the canyons that are cut by the Colorado and Green Rivers, which are hundreds of feet below. The White Rim Road can be seen from many of Canyonlands' viewpoints. Here it is from the Green River overlook. There are few signs on the trail, but they do helpfully exist at this T intersection. The road ahead is the White Rim. The Shafer Trail goes to the left. I asked the ranger if the White Rim would be suitable for a vehicle like mine. She said it would probably be okay up until Musselman Arch, wherever that is. Well, I decided to go exploring. Oddly, the White Rim rises slightly. This took a toll on a couple of cyclists. These were a part of a tour group with a support vehicle. Because I hadn't studied this part of the map, I was expecting the trail to be near the rim. It wasn't. And it became sandier. This is not a place to get stuck. The trail info sheet states that it's best to take enough food and water for a day or two in case you break down and have to be rescued. It also claims that towing charges could easily reach $1,000. At a wide spot in the road, next to the cyclist support vehicle, I decided to head back. I learned later that Musselman Arch was a further 40 minutes down the road. A mile or so later, I rejoined the Shafer Trail. A wooden sign claims that it's 32 miles to Moab via the Potash Road. I've traveled about 8 miles so far, so the trail map, well, it's a bit misleading. A few hundred yards later, it starts to get rough. The path narrows and gets very rough as you descend into Shafer Canyon. It's here that you realize why you need a high-clearance vehicle. Going slow and dodging the largest of the sharp rocks is critical. It becomes evident that the ranger was right. The top section is the easy part. Then there's a fairly flat clearing with nice views. This is a great spot to take your time, or even stop to enjoy the scenery. It gets rough again as you cross a wash. During a rain, this part can be treacherous, or even impassable. The drive up is also a challenge. These motorcyclists asked me about the part I just drove down, and they shared what was next for me. The trail is now on a broad shelf above the Colorado River. The cliffs rise 12 to 1,500 feet, and the view is amazing. It took 45 minutes to get here, including the White Rim excursion. From Dead Horse Point, high above, you can see this part of the road. This is the only overlook on the river, so it's worth spending some time exploring it and taking it all in. When Buzz Aldrin stepped on the moon, he described what he saw as magnificent desolation. I can think of no better way to describe this spot. It makes the rough ride well worth the effort. In the other direction, in the layers, you see millions of years of geology and Earth history. A little farther down the road, a faded spur trail heads to the right and provides another view of the river. Unfortunately, I didn't know this until I saw the spur trail from Dead Horse Point State Park the next day. Now that you know it's here, you should take it. From Dead Horse Point, you can see the next few miles of the road and a few more spur trails. By this time, the trail has changed names. It's now called the Potash Road and a portion of the White Rim Road. The road meanders for several miles. By the way, we're no longer in Canyonlands National Park. In fact, we haven't been since just before the river overlook. On some maps, the road even has a number. It's called County Road 142. When the landscape opens up, again, you get that feeling of magnificent desolation. It's another good spot to stop and take a few pictures. As you go over a crest, there's a brief hint of blue on the horizon. They are potash evaporation pools from a mining operation. They provide a few of the non-tourism related jobs in Moab. They also provide nice contrast to the landscape. The road ends down at river level, so there are still several hundred feet to drop. And drop it does. It was too rough for the stabilization system, so sorry for the bumps. There are other trails down here, and there are no signs, so it's easy to get a bit lost, especially when heading in the other direction. Telephone poles are a sign that it's almost over. There are only a few miles of dirt road left. There's one more interesting photo op just before leaving the dirt. This balanced rock is about the size of a small bungalow. When you hit the pavement, you're on Highway 279. It starts just after the boat dock on the Colorado River. Suddenly, there's more greenery along the road. The Colorado is just to the right. Then there are great sandstone cliffs. This area is called Wall Street. Look for a sign pointing to Indian writing. Several feet above the road, in the dark desert varnish, the ancients left their mark. Most depict animals and those who hunted them. You may be wondering why they're so high off the ground. Well, the natural level of the dirt was below the area of the desert varnish. The dirt was removed when they built Highway 279. A little further down the road is the rock climbing area. This is the easy section, where local outfitters train first-timers to climb these nearly vertical walls. It seems fitting to end a journey that began by descending a cliff by watching someone climb one. There are just a few more miles back to Moab, and this will give you plenty of time to reflect. In just a couple of hours, you've descended over 1,900 feet on a road that was carved into a cliff. You've spent time in a harsh, pristine, former ranch with 1,200-foot-tall stone walls that were once used as a natural corral. You've seen how resources are mined. You've seen ancient writing. And you've seen how some cheat gravity. All in all, not a bad way to spend an hour and a half to 3 hours.